Joining me in studio now is Professor Israel Kodiaga, who is also the director in Africa of the Southern Delta International. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Achisa.
Well, I think we will start off with South Africa. We've just seen the latest developments at the ANC party as they celebrated their 105th, can I call it birthday?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
But looking at the dynamics, some of the things that happened in 2016, them performing very poorly in the local elections, is it going to be business as usual for ANC, even as we head into 2019?
First of all, I wish them happy birthday. And like any other person celebrating 105 years, essentially ANC's problems are basically the aging crisis. And I do not think much would happen. And the writing has been on the wall. The ANC, which during the many years before independence was basically a communist party, has gone through phases. And you realize that the ANC has not actually reinvented itself to attune itself to the changing times. That explains why there are all these problems. And Zuma, confessing that the party is divided, confessing that the party is dodged with corruption. These are realities that the ANC has lived with for all these years. And I think the rain started beating the ANC the moment the ANC took power. Because the cadre who came into power actually abandoned the cause for which the ANC was formed. And that is the beginning of the problem. So if you want to see the problems of the ANC, they date back to when Mandela took over in 1994.
205 years?
No, 1994.
Oh, it's 1994,
1994,
yes.
Because in fact they were supposed to implement the ideals, the philosophies and the principles for which they fought. But coming into power, they literally abandoned the cause.
So are you saying they failed from the onset?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, as if that is not enough, what is happening is that the people, the millions, those who were born in 1994 when Mandela became president, are over 20 years. And their voters, they have got nothing to remember apartheid about. They want to see jobs. They want to see education. They want to see things that resonate with their times. And unfortunately, the ANC has not responded to the needs of the new generation. That partially explains why Julius Malema has gone away with this economic freedom fighters party, where he's talking about economic freedom. So the young want jobs, they want economic freedom, which the ANC doesn't seem to be providing.
Do you see this affecting the ANC once we get to the 2019 election?
In a very big way. One, we cannot forget that this very ANC saw it last year in the elections when they lost 3 key municipalities. And that loss itself was a pointer of the things to come. If you listened to Zuma's speech, it was more conciliatory. It was talking about corruption. It's one thing to talk about corruption and a different thing to read it. And we know that Zuma, many in his cabinet and many in his government are themselves not having clean hands. So when we are talking about corruption, really we are saying, yes, we have been corrupt. That's what Zuma is saying. We have been corrupt. Now, can you give us another chance? I doubt whether South Africans will do that. Much as the fact that the ANC remains the most popular party, but they have to watch out for Memusi. They have to watch out for Memusi. Yes, they have to watch out for Memusi.
But looking at those quipped to be the next leader after Zuma lives in December this year, we have the ex-wife, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the AUC chair. We have the vice president, actually, Cyril Ramaphosa, and the treasurer general. Who do you see is the most likely to make it to that apex seat?
Number one, apparently, the three have very, very good credentials. Nkosazana, for one, is remembered for the reforms she brought in the Ministry of Health, in the health sector, when she was minister. And Nkosazana is equally remembered for steering the African Union, despite the fact that not much came out of it. But we know that during her time within the African Union, there has been some semblance of stability. There's some semblance of order. And actually, the Union was more proactive on conflict and issues that affect the continent. Cyril, one, is well managed, and as if that is not enough, he was a trade unionist, and not only that, he actually heads and is a shareholder in many of the leading mining firms, Lonmin and Impala and many others. So we can see Cyril will be banking on the trade union. whether it is the Workers' Union, National Union of Miners, or the other union, whereas Nkosazana will also be banking on the ANC Women League. So when you look at the two, they actually have very good vote banks they are starting from. Then, of course, the third candidate who has been in the finance of the party is a cadre. And therefore, I think it's going to be breezing. It's going to be a true battle. And the battle lines are drawn.
All right, we'll see how that goes. But let's move out of South Africa and go to Ghana, where the inauguration ceremony of President Nana Akufo-Addo was held over the weekend. All right, despite the plagiarism claims of his speech, let's just take a look at the electoral process of the people of Ghana. Look, seeing as Kenyans are getting into an election in 7 months, what are some of the lessons we can draw from how Ghanaians conducted themselves pre, during, and after the elections?
Thank you very much, Achis. I think Kenya has a lot to learn from the just concluded elections in Ghana. And if you allow me, I would look at them encapsulated within a prism of 10 critical points or critical areas. The first area is that the campaigns in Ghana were issue-focused. All the parties were talking about critical issues which were affecting the Ghanaians. And they were talking about corruption, they were talking about the infrastructure, they were talking about health, they were talking about education, they were talking about public finance, taxes, among a host of other areas. That is not happening in Kenya. And I wish very much that the Kenyan political parties would address the real issues which are actually affecting Kenya. So that is lesson number one. Lesson number two is the aspect of the Electoral Commission. The Madam Chairperson of the Electoral Commission in Ghana made it clear right from the time she took over that she was going to run a free, fair, and transparent process. So you could see throughout there was trust. Ghanaians looked to them and believed them. So you would see clearly that here is a commission that was committed to running a free, fair, and transparent elections. Unlike in the Kenyan scenario, where although the whole process of recruitment and the rest is a charade, appearing to be very transparent, but you see their actions, then you begin to wonder whether they genuinely wanted to have a free, fair, and transparent election. Lesson number three, the media. The media in Ghana was in the front line and in all the polling stations, and the media was reporting in real time. They had reporters and correspondents in every polling station, collecting and tallying and actually giving the Ghanaians the results as they were relaying them right from the ground, as opposed to here, where you find the media will go assemble at Bomas of Kenya or at KICC and feed Kenyans on what they've been fed by the IEBC.
Well, I'm sure KTN News will be on that front line in August.
I hope so. And you see, again, Kenya, they will invoke certain laws that they don't want you to give certain figures or certain reports unless it is announced by somebody else. That explains why in Kenya you find, like in the case of Tiati, the other time, the total voter population is 17,000. And President Uhuru wins by, imagine, gets 51,000. And you wonder what? And they are announcing it in the media. Those are some of the things we need to learn. And number four, rather, there's the aspect of the Electoral Commission and the use of technology. The elections in Ghana were actually run with technology. And the commission made sure that technology worked, not technology that is designed to fail. In the Kenyan scenario, it is really disturbing. Why? Because when you listen to, for example, recently the Attorney General talking of having conversed with some people in his village who are going to go to milk cows first and go to pick coffee before going to vote, and the more reason for changing the electoral laws, that is madness. Because one, technology, basically, as in this case, what is required, when we talk about BVR, we are talking about capturing your face, capturing your earlobes, capturing your finger. So even if your finger, you've just milked a cow, there's nothing wrong with looking at your face. And we are saying that let only those who have been, whose fingers have gone on to the machine to actually get the ballot paper. So we are able to tally, get the actual papers, ballots cast, and of course the people who pass through the election voter identification. And the election voter identification system is such that it cannot allow for double voting or double registration. So when you find a whole attorney general deceiving our country and talking about coffee pickers and milkers, then you get very worried.
Yeah.
Number 4. Of course, we are looking at the aspect...
Number 5, but let's rush through them.
You look at the aspect of the political parties. The political parties in Ghana, of course, like everywhere else in the world, were constantly calling press statements and making alarming statements. But unlike Kenya, they were not that loud and in a sense that would create panic. So I think our parties also need to be more controlled, more modest, and not saying that such a tribe or an ethnic group should not be in this kind of place or the other. Number 6, among others, I would just tell you quickly, we have the security forces. The security forces in Ghana were more involved in deterrence and were not inclined to one side, as opposed to what would happen here. You'd be surprised to find a policeman throwing tear gas on a crowd. We had the issues of the international monitors who were there and who the government cooperated with them. We had a whole sort of cohort of things, and do not forget that there was harmonious handover.
All right, Prof. Definitely a lot of lessons. Sorry, I have to cut you short.
Yes.
Definitely a lot of lessons we can pick from Ghana, and I think we should just give out more information about, given that we are in a pre-election mood, how we're going to conduct ourselves. But even as we talk about elections, Gambia, again, are in a state of mayhem. ECOWAS now after the threats, but right now they're talking about a peaceful mediation process. What do you think about what is happening in Gambia right now?
Jammeh came to power through a coup, and he's been in Gambia for 22 years. And of course, the thing is, the elections were announced and Jammeh conceded the defeat and congratulated the president-elect. Unfortunately, like in many other African countries, and more so with the leaders who have overstayed in power, they also have done so many things. And I think this is why the opposition got it wrong, because the moment they got elected, they said, we are going to prosecute this man. And so Jammeh had to have a change of heart and said, no, I didn't lose. I'm going nowhere. So in fact, what is happening now, this is a matter for the ECOWAS, it's a matter for President Buhari, it's a matter for Salif, all to show leadership and tell Jammeh to leave. Otherwise, we are going to plunge that country into chaos.
All right. I think we are just about to wrap it up, but on the 26th of December, the academic world, Kenya, South Africa, lost a very big person, someone that contributed a lot in the world of academia, Professor Roch Ajulu. I know, or I understand, you might definitely have a lot of things to say about him. What is the one thing that the professor would be mostly remembered about?
First and foremost, allow me to send my very, very sincere condolences to the family. I am so known to all of them, even the younger brother who is in Kisumu and the family. And I knew Ajulu also in South Africa. This is really a huge loss, not only to the people of Sakwa and not only to the people of Kenya, but to the whole world. Ajulu Roch was a man of many worlds. First, he was a Kenyan. Then, of course, he was a South African, he was a Pan-Africanist, and it transcended the basic barriers that we all know. And in the academia, Ajulu has left a huge mark. If you go into his publications, his writings, his work, he's left an indelible mark. And I think he'll be remembered for a very, very long time. One of the things that I remember Ajulu for is courage. He's one man who was not shy to speak his mind and also to put it down in pen and paper. When most professors were putting their tails between their legs, Ajulu never did that. And I'm talking about a time that this country and the world was really oppressive. So I think we've lost a huge, we've lost a great man, we've lost a great mind. But thank God that he's left his legacy in his works, which will inform and instruct many generations to come.
Thank you very much. Professor Israel Kodiaga, political analyst and commentator, the director for Africa at the Southern Delta International. Thank you very much for joining us. That marks the end of our program at this Worldview. Thank you very much for coming in. My name is Akisa Wandera.